and welcome to Sibos 2025 in Frankfurt. I'm Hannah Wallace, and stepping away from the busy event, joining us in the Finextra TV studio is Charlie Platt, Managing Director, Banking for SAP FIoneer. Charlie, it's great to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here. Good to see you again.
Really good to have you in the studio and talking about some really interesting topics, beginning with AI. I know this is at the heart of a lot of discussions over the course of Sibos, and one that you're really passionate about. Could you bring us up to date and tell us how we can maximize the potential of AI in financial institutions? We'll start there.
Sure. Well, it's a huge subject, isn't it? An exciting subject. I think for me it's three things. Firstly, and probably the simplest area to explain, I think, is our ability to build better software utilizing AI. So we obviously build core banking, core payments kind of technology. Using AI, we can bring a lot of efficiency to that. So we actually spun FIoneer out of SAP about 4 years ago. You'll remember we had a significant investment and created a separate business. During that period, we've increased our investment in R&D by 120%. But actually, if you compound that with the efficiencies we can get from AI in building our technology, it means that we can get technology to banks much quicker, much better, and at a lower price point by utilizing some of the improvements that we get from AI. So that's the first thing, building technology better. The second thing is embedding AI into our applications. So what we see a lot of at the moment is a lot of banks building their own AI applications on applications. So for example, we're at a payments event here, so maybe it's something that looks at exceptions in a payment engine and how we can use AI to improve that. That's great, that's a good use case. But as we go forward, we're building that technology into applications already. If you think about it, 5 or 6 years ago, companies were building AI in their HR systems to look at CVs, because they had hundreds of thousands of CVs. How can we use AI to pick the best ones out? You don't do that today because that AI is embedded in the HR systems that you buy. We will go the same direction with the banking systems, that some of these applications that are being built today by banks will become standard functionality in the applications, and we're building those today. So that's the second thing. I think the third thing is AI agents. So we've launched our own AI agent that sits on top of all of the FIoneer products, which has the specialism in our applications. So each bank, of course, will have an ecosystem of AI agents, and you will use different agents for different things. What a call center agent uses, for their normal conversations, as opposed to asking some big questions of core banking systems, are different applications. So building these AI agents sophisticated enough that they work together and they're interoperable, I think is going to be the third area that brings some very significant benefits to the banks.
There are some serious benefits as well. You've done very well to highlight the tangible progress being made around artificial intelligence, but you can't talk about AI without touching on the barriers and potential risks as well. So talk us through those.
Yeah, sure. I think this is a really interesting area because I don't want to say hype about AI because it's real and it's here and it's very, very significant. But I do feel that there could be a barrier to achieving some of the things that we think it could achieve. That is broadly around data. And data in a number of different ways. The truth is that AI is not a magic tool. It still has to have the fuel of decent data. And we still have siloed organizations in banks where different things happen at different levels, and there's still in that data infrastructure we see that there's abstracts of data sort of as it goes through the business. And having a integrated data platform that's really going to give us the value of AI across there is still a big issue. I think the other big problem is the siloed nature as well. So what we see is point solutions being built in AI at the moment, and not necessarily things going broader across the business silo that it actually operates in. So I think there's some very significant risks in that we build AI and almost creating a spaghetti of AI engines in the organization. I come from a background many, many years ago of algorithmic high-frequency trading, and we had a lot of algorithms trading with algorithms, and it got into an awful mess, as we all know. But, that sort of proliferation of these point solutions could become a real risk to some of the things that are actually going on in the decisions that these AI engines are making and the governance that goes around it.
Well, as you say, data is the fuel, and quality data is what is essential. And banks have really become data-driven organizations, haven't they? But how do you see customers managing that data and using it strategically as well? It'd be great to get some examples too.
Yeah, so I think they have become data organizations, but there's still an awful lot of legacy left in the banks. They've done a great job in building some of that out, but as you know, we've been through many, many different examples of where we're trying to get this one version of the truth. We had the whole Hadoop era where, it was going to be the new single source of data, and none of that's materialized over all of the years. And I think what's going to happen now is we're going to see a bigger investment in some of that infrastructure of the data than we've ever seen before. It's becoming very apparent to business leaders the value that you can get from the data. Previously, in many years before, it's always been a bit opaque for some of the business owners to really understand the value of these massive data projects that they've gone and invested hundreds of millions of pounds into. It's always, the business value has always been a little bit opaque to the business owners. So I think this will help them understand the potential of the data in there. There's another major factor, which is the readiness of data platforms to be able to cope with what we're talking about now. In the past, we had to create various abstract layers of data just because the processing power, the systems, the traditional databases weren't capable of processing the sorts of levels of data that we're getting into. Those problems are going away. We're getting to a level that we can process the sort of levels of data that we're getting into. So I think we're starting to see now the proliferation of a much better story around having a data architecture underneath that will then enable the AI to operate to its full potential. Without that data layer truly there and some of the legacy taken out that we've been trying to do for decades, without that there, we will never really materialize the true benefit of AI until we've solved that problem underneath.
That's very interesting, and I was about to ask for your advice, but there's some key advice already shared there. But what would you say to those taking the next steps in this new era of AI, to summarize those points so far?
I think the thing for me is use cases are great, right? Use cases are important. We can use them to show some business benefit quickly. They're a good test bed for exploring some of the things that we can do. But use cases, every stall here has a list as long as your arm of use cases for AI. It's how we're really going to take the massive value of that, and how does this become across the divisions of the bank. So for example, we're here at a payments environment. I've heard a lot of people talking about, say, exception handling in payments. How could we use AI to manage exceptions in the processes, particularly as instant payments have got so fast. They're across the world. We're bringing in a lot more corporate instant payments, which means the volume of transactions is just getting higher and higher and higher. So that's great. You can have an AI to look at managing some exceptions. But what's the knock-on effect of that? If we're doing instant payments and this data's flowing through so quickly and these payments flowing through, what does that mean to the liquidity systems in the bank, right? That we've got this massive volume of transactions happening. The knock-on effect is colossal. So how can we use AI as part of, looking at the payments engine to start to inform other parts of the business to make it a much more seamless process all the way through? So I think my advice would be, yes, continue on some of your use cases, that's great, but really think about the data infrastructure that is going to underpin this, because that is going to be a problem. Get the investment on some of that data infrastructure secured as you go along, but definitely think about how we can bring divisions together for value across the organization, such as bringing something like, a payments transaction with something that maybe impacts more the finance side of the business and how we actually manage the finance business. So bringing those two worlds together, I think, will have a much bigger impact on the executive leadership team than just the AI itself.
Some very strong advice to end on. Charlie, thank you so much for sharing your insights. It's such an exciting space. It still is. I'll let you get back out there to share your insights with the rest of the delegates, but thank you very much as always.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.